I was all set to come on here and be pumped up and excited about the resume of cruising in the Mediterranean, but 2020 being the big pile of stuff that it is, it's thrown me for another loop. I mean, we got the global health crisis, for goodness sakes, more localized to that. And for me, we got the cruising shutdown, and now I think my identity's probably getting stolen because of a huge data breach at a major cruise company. In today's episode of the Lido Loca Cruise Show, let's talk about how most of us probably just got hacked and try to celebrate a little bit the accomplishments, or the beginning of the accomplishments, we don't want to jinx it, of the MSC Grandiosa. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Tony. If you enjoy that cruising content, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of the episodes. So yeah, Carnival Corporation got hacked, data being held for ransom, personal, private information of customers gone out into the world. Honestly, it's not my first experience with having my identity stolen. And so I do have some tips for you on what to do in case you are worried about it. But before that, let's celebrate a little bit. A big event happened on Saturday, just a couple days ago. The MSC Grandiosa has resumed sailing in the Mediterranean. Now, this is a big cruise ship. It has a capacity of 6,000 passengers. It has a crew of 1,700. That's if you max the thing out. And they set sail for a little tour around Italy from Genoa on the 16th of August. So they're just a few days in. They've already made one port stop, and this is probably the most health protocol intensive cruise possible. Cruise passengers had to be tested at the embarkation point doing a swab test. They had to wait for the results. There were temperature scans. Anybody who failed the swab test, who had a high temperature showing any symptoms of the virus, turned away. And so MSC working really hard to make sure that they're letting only people who are virus free on the cruise ship, as well as that is possible. Another kind of cool move is that the CEO of MSC has put his money where his mouth is, and he is on this first sailing. Now, they are following EU protocols. They are taking people only from Italy, and they're only going to ports in Italy. The passengers on the Grandiosa, if they're getting off the cruise ship, they can only go on MSC excursions. They're not allowed to explore the port on their own. They have social distancing. They have a mask protocol. They have air filtration systems. They have all these procedures in place to try to make this the safest cruising experience as possible. And for all of us cruise lovers around the world, we are waiting with bated breath to see if this cruise goes off without a hitch. Now, TUI's been doing cruises around Germany since July, but they're not as big as MSC. And so this would be a significant win for the cruise industry if these cruises for MSC go well. Now, MSC, they're kind of holding their cards close to their vest. They're not saying how many people they actually put on this cruise ship. And so it's made me speculate. They could either do it two ways. They could have reduced capacity significantly so that they had a better controlled environment to test out their protocols, or they could have just said, look, let's go big and put as many people on the cruise ship that would go to see if the protocols would warrant a fuller capacity. Now, I know that the recommendations in Europe is to go with a reduced capacity, so I can't imagine them actually going against that recommendation, but it will be interesting to see when this cruise ends if the actual numbers of how many people cruised are revealed. So we watch and we wait and we hope, fingers crossed, toes crossed, rabbit's feet, anything possible, that this would be a good cruise story and this would help our plight. That is the feel-good story. Now, the challenging story is Carnival Corporation has reported a data breach. What happens in large publicly traded companies if there is a cyber attack, a data breach? They have to report to the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. They have to fill out a 8K filing detailing the information about the data breach, and this is the information that Carnival Corporation has provided. They have said that one of their brands, there's 9 Carnival brands, Carnival Cruise Lines, AIDA, Costa, P&O, Cunard, Seabourn, Holland America line. I don't know if that's all of them, but you get the gist. One of those had a data breach, and it was a ransomware attack. You may wonder what a ransomware attack is. Well, this happens even on a small scale. If a hacker compromises your computer, they could take information that's important, like your operating system information, the thing that you need to run your computer, or they can find some of your personal information, and they can scramble up that data. They use a technique called encryption, and then they contact you and say, look, your computer doesn't work anymore. You don't have access to your data because I've got control of it, and if you want control back, you got to pay up some money. I'm holding your data for ransom. That is one of the things that happened in this Carnival breach. A huge portion of one cruise company's data was held for ransom. The second aspect of this breach is, in addition to scrambling data, holding it for ransom, they took a big chunk of it, and the big chunk of data that they took included personal information of the passengers and employees, information that included things like credit cards, passport numbers, date of birth, those kind of things. They're holding a big chunk of that data that they were able to take out of the system. They are remediating, they are investigating. I think this is why Carnival is not named the brand, because they're still in the process of getting this cleaned up. So while Carnival did not reveal which company got hacked, they said that they do not believe that this hack will materially affect their business, their ability to do business. But they did have this statement, even though it's not going to materially affect their business, they say, nonetheless, we expect that the security event included unauthorized access to personal data of guests and employees, which may result in potential claims. They also said, although we believe that no other IT systems of the other company's brands have been impacted by this incident based upon our investigation to date, there can be no assurance that other IT systems of the other company brands will not be adversely affected. So they're saying it's very possible that this could be more widespread than just one brand. Now, I've had my identity stolen before, and whenever I hear about these kind of attacks, anything where it could have been my data that was jeopardized, I just always assume the worst. I have 7 tips for you of things that you can do in case you think your data has been breached. Number 1, this is the big one. This is something that you should do frequently. Change your passwords. Change your passwords often. I'm going to give you my password technique. I like complex passwords, but I like passwords that are easy to remember. I use a technique where I develop a past sentence, and my password comes out of that past sentence. So for example, I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I could have a password called like Star Wars 1971, but there's things that's easy to guess there. That's an easily guessable password. My birthday is in 1971. I'm a Star Wars fan. That's not a great password. But if you are a Star Wars fan, you could do something with a sentence like Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. So I would take the first letters of those sentences, then I would add some things like numbers. So that revelation is from The Empire Strikes Back. That movie came out in 1980. So maybe I add 1980 to it. And then special characters like exclamation points are hard to hack. And so I might add a couple exclamation points. Capital D, lowercase v, capital I, lowercase SW 1980 1980 bang bang exclamation point exclamation point. Now all of a sudden you've got a pretty robust password that's easy for you to remember but really hard to hack. Another thing about passwords, you do want to change them frequently, and you want to make sure that you have 4 or 5 passwords and that you don't use them in similar situations. So make sure that your email passwords are different than your bank passwords. Make sure that other financial passwords are different than your bank passwords. So you want to have a few different passwords that you use for different purposes. The time my identity got stolen, I had the same username and password for my email, for my bank account, and for PayPal, and somebody was able to work through all of that and hack my PayPal and steal money from my bank, all because I was using the same username and password. Number 2, this is a little more techie. You want to sign up for 2-factor authentication. You may have seen it in some of your interactions before. You may provide your set of credentials, your username and your password, and then the site says, okay, well, let me text you a number just to prove that it's you. So the username and password, that's one authentication, and then them texting you and giving you a number, that's a second form of authentication. So that's 2-factor authentication. That can happen in a lot of ways with that text message, or you could have something on your phone that works with a website that says, okay, now that you've provided these credentials, can you provide the number that's on your phone? Not all websites have that, but like major websites do. You can 2-factor authentication your Google Google account, those kind of things. And that makes it safer. In case somebody steals your credentials of username and password, they still can't get into your stuff because they don't have your authenticator, whether that's on your phone or whether that's a text message, those kind of things. So two-factor authentication, a way to keep yourself safer online. Number 3 is important. You want to make sure you're constantly checking for updates from the company that got hacked. And so in this case, keep an eye on your email. If you were affected, I would assume that Carnival will send out emails saying, look, you may have been compromised. These are some steps that you can take. But be mindful of what's coming from the company that got hacked. Make sure you're looking in the news for stuff like that, and look for any emails from them. This is one you should do all the time anyways. Make sure you're checking your banking account, your credit card account, anywhere that you have financial transactions, and make sure there's nothing weird on there. If there is something weird on there, make sure that you report it. Any kind of weird charge can be an indication that you may be compromised. You also want to keep an eye on your credit report. Make sure that there's no weird chargebacks, anything like that on your credit report. That could be another indication that you may have gotten compromised. I mentioned it earlier, there are services out there that all they do is watch for your identity to be stolen. They'll alert you when things go sideways. That's usually a monthly charge. It can be kind of expensive, but if you're somebody that has a lot going on, that you are worried that you do things that may get you compromised, it might be a good safety blanket to spend money monthly to have somebody monitor your credit and to monitor your identity. If things get too extreme, you could just freeze your credit. This is a circumstance where everything that is financially transactable, you just close those things down, or you put them on hold. Maybe only hold one financial implement, like just your debit card or something like that. Close everything else down. Use just one credit card. If you're in the middle of your identity being stolen and restored, you may want to do that just to protect your money and just to make sure that you can still live your life while you're trying to get all that stuff sorted out. There is a website, identitytheft.gov. It's a government website. You can put your information in. They will help you track what's going on with the data breaches that you may be involved in. You can go there, supply your information. They marry you up with companies that may have had your data compromised. And it also has an extensive amount of tips and other things to help you protect your identity. Question for the day: have you ever had your identity stolen? What are some of your security hacks? And join me in being hopeful for the MSC Grandiosa. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please share your support for the show by hitting the like button. This is Tony for Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.